share it to any of your channels, that's totally up to you. But we're rocking live now, and if you need any help with that, Roger, and knowing how to do that, you can always shout me, my man.
I can share it afterwards as well, can't I?
You can share it after, my man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's do that. Anyway, welcome. Yeah. Roger Wilson Crane. Even your name's pretty badass, mate. I like your name. It's got author written all over it, that name.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So, dude, let's jump in. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to speak to you. I don't know a lot about you, which is great because now I can find out.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'll try.
So behind you is a very cool picture of your book.
It is. Yeah.
Excellent marketing skills, by the way. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's jump in. Tell me about Certified.
Well, it's basically a fictional memoir. So it is based on my experiences and events in my life, but I've used a bit of creative license and embellished certain parts. And it was just basically started because I wanted to write about my father's passing away. I'd been estranged from him for many, many years, but we had to deal with when he died, and the week of that time, when from the cremation and scattering his ashes was very sad, of course, but also there were so many farcical events and really odd bits and bats. I just wanted to write about it, but in the end, I don't think it would make a full book, Alex, to be fair.
What do you think guys, especially in their more reflective years, should we say, that's me being kind instead of using the word older years. But what do you think guys start to reflect more? And especially, like, I've spoken to a lot of guys who've started writing in their late 40s, late 50s, late 60s, and they're just looking back and almost processing life, getting thoughts on paper. Like, was there anything in particular that made you dive into that, or is this something you've always done?
It's interesting now because I hadn't really looked back properly, but when I decided to do this, and that was the premise, that it was about my father, and it was about the birth of my daughter that I was so lucky to have. I'd got the two of the bits, and then I knew then that if I could use the certificates of birth, one unexpected birth and a hapless marriage, a hapless wedding, and a bizarre death, I've got a story. But it actually did make me then really start to think about and go back, which I hadn't done really, and really thought about, had it affected me with my father, sort of leaving when I was 13. And then we had no contact for 20 odd years. Did that affect me? And then trying to reconcile a couple of years before his death when we found out where he lived and things like that. So, yeah. So I have now, but I hadn't before I started writing it, which is a bit odd. I hadn't been that reflective, but so much more now. Yeah, so much more.
Yeah, well, you were in the auto trade, right? High level or MD in the auto trade. So I guess time for reflection wasn't always available. We get busy, right? We live life and we earn money and we climb a ladder and we become busier. And I guess would you put that down to one of the reasons why you hadn't stopped to reflect, or would you just think it's common ground for us humans not to spend much time reflecting back?
I think that's part of it, but the other part is I've always been a good blocker outer, Alex.
Well, you're a dude. Of course you are.
Yeah, but I think it's also as I'm not talking about generations because I don't like to do that, but there is a younger generation that do show their feelings more. They do talk about them more, and I think young men show their feelings a lot more than I certainly did and still do. And I do like to think we can learn from younger guys that do talk about their issues, do talk about what's happened to them. But I'm a really good blocker of anything that's sad or upsets me, I've always been like that.
So, Roger, we're going to go down a rabbit hole here, and I'm willing to go down it if you are. But do you think this is a good thing now that guys are starting to show their feelings more? Well, we're all starting to certainly express our feelings more and be more vocal, especially on platforms like this, social media platforms. We've all got an opinion now. We've all got feelings, and we're not scared to let people know how we feel now. Is this, in terms of generational advancement, is it a good thing or not?
Ooh, yeah, it is a rabbit hole, isn't it?
That's why I'm asking you, and you not asking me. I don't know the answer.
I think yes. If there's a few things that do worry me slightly, that it's over sort of talk about yourself and stuff like that. But in general, yes. I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I haven't had it bad. I had a great childhood, even without my father. I had, 2 brothers and a sister, and my mum and grandma who were wonderful. So, but there's a lot of people that will, way worse off than me. That is it good to bottle it up? I don't know. I probably don't think it is, to be fair. So I think if you really push me, I would say, yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't encourage bottling up for any guy listening to this. But there's a book I'm reading at the minute, Roger, called Grit. It's by a lady called Angela Duckworth. I haven't read it yet, but I've kind of like took some data from it, and it said generationally we are becoming less grittier as men. So men who were born in the 90s are grittier than men born in 2000s, and men born in the 80s are grittier than those born in the 90s, and as the decades pass, we're becoming less gritty, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's, according to this book, it means that we don't persevere with things as much, we don't see things through as much, we don't work as hard, we don't handle adversity as much. And I don't know about you, but I do see a lot of this about. And I think it is becoming more common, whether that has anything to do with the fact that we all express our feelings more and maybe we feel like we've got entitlement, or certainly some people do. I don't know whether these two things are linked, but I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. I wouldn't sort of disagree with a few points on that. I think, from a younger generation, maybe there is a bit of, sometimes, not with all, but a little bit of sense of entitlement, and that they should be at the top of a ladder by the time they're 25 and not have to earn it. There is a bit of that. I wouldn't disagree with that, to be fair. And I just worked my way up. It took me many years and many different jobs, from being in a hotel to selling texture coating company, for Pete's sake. So I get what I get that meaning. I do, yeah. To be fair, I think there's going to be a balance, hasn't there? There's got to be a balance.
Yeah, 100%. And like you rightly point out, whether we've tipped over that balance point a little bit, I'm not sure. I love the old-fashioned ladder of, you start at the bottom and you work hard and you climb up. But I was out for breakfast with Arjuna this morning. I'm not sure if you caught him on last week's podcast. Great guy. Yeah, it's the Shire monk. And we're talking about purpose and the way it's explained to kids at school, and how everybody wants to have a purpose and discover their purpose. But we were debating whether it was a good thing to teach kids about purpose, in the sense of whatever you want, you can have it. Because I think there's a big gap missed in the middle. Like you've just said, you have to work your way up there. Purpose sounds great, but purpose can be demanding. It requires the best of you. If you chase your purpose, it sounds so smooth and so easy. But me and you both know that there's a lot of hard work, and pursuing your purpose is very demanding. Maybe you experienced this when you started writing. Maybe you felt like that was something you really wanted to do. But writing's not easy, let's face it. You probably have to dig deep, persevere. Everything tells you that you're not good enough to write a book. I know this kind of stuff approaches. So, yeah, we were debating whether, just saying chase your purpose is enough education to give to youngsters without talking about things like grit and perseverance and setbacks. Yeah.
I think it would be nice to, and I'm not saying someone like me, but similar to those that have started at working in a shop, or like I say, as a barman in a hotel, or doing bits and that. And would it be wrong to have someone talking to schools and telling them, how that hard work and the setbacks you get, but the setbacks are worth it if you still, so you pick yourself up and you go again, and you can get to where you want with a lot of hard work. And that would be, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that, rather than just, here's your, we've all got a purpose, go and get it. Because that's, you could go all the way different ways, and if you're not ready to pick yourself up, well, when you're unemployed, and as I have been, many years ago, if you're not willing to just pick yourself up and just take any job to get back on that ladder, it doesn't really matter what your purpose is, does it? It's still all about getting back up there, working again, finding the next job, finding the next ladder, and finding what you're good at. I mean, I've always been just a salesman, I suppose is the best way of putting it, since I left school at 16. Whether you're selling a gin and tonic behind the bar, or a piece of cheese in a delicatessen, or in the auto trade, selling cars to businesses or personal people. It's been right through my life, but it's just taken different routes. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we were also talking about, because purpose comes up a lot, especially for guys. I think there's a lot of guys out there that will probably feel like they don't have a purpose, but it's quite contradictory, because I think we should encourage everyone to pursue their purpose. But unfortunately, and this is really tough to hear, but I don't think everyone will achieve it or get close to it. Some people try their best at certain things and don't achieve, and that's cool. That's life. But yeah, it's being able to teach these contradictory messages. They make sense to me. Like, I understand that it's great to talk about purpose, and it's great to say that you can achieve what you want. But there's only a small amount of reality in that statement. Like, not everyone can achieve what they want. Everyone should have a damn good go at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a better message, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
You don't want to crush a kid's ambitions from the off, but you also don't want to. You don't want to paint this false sense of reality that life's going to work out how you want it to be. Because I don't know about you, I've never really had plans that have worked out.
Oh, blah! What in private life relationships?
It's been like, when you sit there with a pen and paper and you write your 5-year mission, or you sit there and you wonder how and you create this path, and like boom, something hits you in the face. It's like, oh right, fuck. Well, that path isn't the one that I thought. Like, nothing's really worked out in my life like I thought it would.
I would totally agree with that, and I think I talk a bit about that in the book. It is very. I could have gone all sorts of different ways. I could have just stayed, because I was brought up in the Yorkshire Dales in a lovely town called Settle, and I could still be there in a way if I hadn't made a certain decision, to move to a different house on the outskirts. It got me closer to sort of Leeds, which means then I could get a job nearer the city, which was when I started the car trade. All those sort of things. If I hadn't, I might have still been working in the Yorkshire Dales, could still be behind a bar. It's odd. You don't quite know. And I didn't plan that. It's just decisions you make for yourself. And I wasn't thinking I need to go and do that because then I can go into the big city or anything like that. It was just, I think I'll just move to this. It's a bit cheaper. It's a bit. So I've never had a grand plan of career or anything like that. Apart from, I think I wanted to be a traffic cop when I was about 8 or 9, Alex, I think.
Car salesman, traffic cop. Roger, come on, man. You're trying to get some fans here. But station any good?
You don't get your grades, of course, which I didn't, which meant I couldn't then even think about it. So it's daft, really, isn't it?
Well, look, there's arguments to, we could sit here and argue, well, maybe that's the best way of living life, not having these major plans and being in the moment. And there's plenty of top meditators that talk about, stop worrying about purpose. Like, just like, your purpose is to exist in the moment that is and enjoy that moment. Yeah, sure, have ambitions, but don't get wrapped up in this purpose, because you end up like not living in the moment, and then 5 years later you still haven't found your purpose. You're just 5 years older and still nowhere better off. So when did you first pick up the pen? Like, when did you decide that I'm going to take on this mammoth task of writing a book, man? Because I know how hard it is.
Well, talking about purposes, it was I decided to take a back seat, take a back, whatever you call it, in the company. So I was a managing director, and I'd done 10 years at it, and we built the company up. But the stress and strains of it got a bit much. So I decided, I think it was September 2019, that I was going to take a step back the following March. So March 2020, I would still be, available. I'll still be involved, but not day to day. And when that came along, it was the pandemic hit at the same time, which was really odd, because you go from, because what I thought was going to happen at the end of March was I would be part-time, still getting hundreds of emails a day and replying to a few and passing them on. The company, we decided to put me on the furlough scheme because that was ideal. It was, I wasn't needed because I was stepping back anyway. But you go from, I don't know, 20 calls a day, hundreds of emails, to absolutely nothing. And I found it really, 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 really hard. So through that summer, I spent too much time watching the news, too much time watching the 5 o'clock briefings, too much time drinking wine earlier and earlier in the day. And then my wife Victoria suggested I join this Write That Book masterclass, which is run by Michael Heppel, who I think you've interviewed. I think you know him. I think
I know Michael Heppel.
Yeah.
Was it a suggestion, or were you told get off your ass and do something?
No, to be fair to her, she never tells me. So it was a suggestion, but she said, "I think you really enjoy it because you keep talking about you want to write." And this is for me. This is the odd thing. I've spent years in being a salesman, so I talk all the time. I meet new people. I can do deals with people I've never met, but I really, really didn't want to do it, Alex. I really didn't want to join a Facebook group that was going to talk about how to write a book and stuff. And but she said, "Oh, come on, give it a go. Come on, we'll do it together," which was lovely. I'm glad she did, to be fair. And the first sort of meeting, if you like, he was so inspiring. I was just taken aback by him. And you had a really extreme week where you have to do certain challenges. And then you report back the following days, and everybody's involved. And there were literally 800 people on this group. And I just was inspired by it. And I had the title certified in that week. I had a rough cover. I had the idea of how I was going to do a birth and a wedding and a death. So I literally picked up pen, if you like, or started to type beginning middle of November, and started to write it. And I started to write it at first as a real memoir. But within a week, I think this is really boring, really boring. So I then decided to take the life events and all the different little bits and real life experiences. Some of them are absolutely true in the book. Some chapters are absolutely true, but some of them I've used them. I've embellished it to make the story funnier, sadder, twists and turns. There's a very big twist that even I didn't see coming when I was writing it. That appears. So that's where my journey started, really. So November 2020, and I'd finished the book about April 2021, and published in August. Yeah. So it's
congratulations, man. Do you call yourself a writer now? Are you still at it? Are you writing new material?
Yeah, I call myself an author now. Published successful. I'm very lucky. I'm an Amazon bestseller, which is great. And but yeah, I'm just started a little bit of a follow up, and I'm hoping I can have the same imagination I had in the first one, so people can enjoy the second one hopefully next year if I can do it, if I can replicate it, and yeah, that'd be great.
I wish you'd have told me about the Amazon bestseller. I'd have used that on the text for this podcast.
I know. So
to use Amazon bestseller.
I know. I mean, to be fair, I could just leave that, couldn't I? But you can literally be an Amazon bestseller for about 3 hours, right, and then suddenly disappear. So
trust me, Roger. If I was Amazon bestseller,
you're allowed to say it now.
Every fucker would know about it. I promise you that. I've been telling everyone it'd be on my Facebook profile, everything. I'm an Amazon bestseller.
I do have that now. I screenshotted it. Can't take it away from you.
Yeah.
So I've got it. So yeah, brilliant. I'm so overwhelming.
Yeah, you should be super proud. So is this the auto trade business done for you now? Are you all in on the writing? Is this a full-time game now?
No, I'm still involved with the company. Not day to day. I go in once a week, and I suppose I'm a bit of a sounding board for the company, because I've got the sort of years of experience. So they still lean on me a little bit. I mean, they're doing a great job. They don't need me day to day, but I'm just available. But the majority of the time, yeah, I'm at home. I'm like a house husband. I look after my wife Vic, who's working constantly, solidly from home, making sure she gets lunch, dinners. Good house husband, Alex. I am a really good one.
Top man, absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that Vic kind of, said, look, Roger, you wanted to write this book for ages. So do you ever like look back and go, I just wish I'd have got started earlier? Because again, there's so many guys who'll be watching this that have these little festering dreams, these ambitions, these things they want to do. And we always delay stuff, don't we? We just do. Like, is there any part of you that wishes, I really regret not starting this writing game earlier and having more time at it?
Yeah, I suppose there's two things about that. One is, yes, I do regret that I didn't, because I could have probably done it at weekends or in the evenings, or literally, half an hour a day to write it. But I've been lucky that I've had the time to be able to do that. So I can write, 2,500 words in an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then leave it, do other things at home. So, but yeah, I do regret it. I wish I'd done it many years ago, just made that time, even though work was stress, even though you're at it all the time. I think it would have given me a release. If that makes sense.
What was your release at that point? Did you have one, or did it come in the forms of unhealthy things like the old wine, the old vino?
Yeah, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay. Yeah, probably. We loved going to theatre. That was probably my big release. I love the art, so theatre in London or Sheffield, Leeds, anywhere that was local to us. We did a lot. We did all that together, and that was a good release. But yeah, I think that would be nice. I think that would be a really good hobby, because I played football for many years, and I suppose that was released when you were working and younger. When that goes, you try and find things in like golf or something like that, but never quite is the same. And I think, if I could have done that on a Saturday morning, like I was going to play football, done 2 or 3 hours a week, and written and published a book a lot earlier. Maybe.
Yeah. Have you been to the Royal Shakespeare Company here in my local town?
No, I haven't. No. Yes. Do they just do Shakespeare there, Alex?
No, they do lots. You're asking the wrong person, man. I know a lady who worked there, and she said, Alex, and she was being dead straight with me. She wasn't even taking the piss out of me. She said, no offense, but she said the only player that I'd go and see if I was you is Peter Pan. And that's what she said to me. So she said, so I think she was trying to say that's all I'd understand. And she's probably got fair points, to be fair. So it's quite a famous theatre.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you're ever down, man, you have to give me a shout, have a coffee or something.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. No, I've never visited. I always thought it was just mostly Shakespeare and a bit.
Well, it's Shakespeare. It's heavy Shakespeare, yeah. It's one of those towns where every pub claims Shakespeare's been in there, and everywhere says it's Shakespeare's place. But it's a really nice place, man. I think you'd enjoy it. And if you're into theatre, there's nice restaurants where you can get pre-theatre dinner, and you can make a weekend of it. So yeah, if you're ever about to be a shout. So yeah, how, knowing what you know now, then I wish I'd have done this a bit earlier. Is there any kind of like advice or guidance that you can give to a lad of any age, or whether he be younger or in his later years, like if he wants to do something, and whether it's just crafting out, like you say, half an hour each day or half an hour at the weekend? Is there anything you can say now, now that you've got the experience of what it feels like not to get started on something you want to work on? Is there anything you can say to encourage more people to get started?
I think also well, one of the things also was that I was a joker at school, and I absolutely adored school, and I was lucky because the teachers adored me, but they didn't adore me for being a particularly good student to get good grades. But I regret that. When you look back, I regret that, and I think a lot of young men might have done the same. And what I would say is that I also wish I'd taken some sort of a degree, even on an evening class, chosen something, whether it was to do with psychology, whether it was to do with, but done something. I think I wasted a lot of time, working in dead end jobs, to be fair, when I was younger, up to good 40 years of age, 35, 40 years of age. So I wish I'd then done something like that, where you can do night classes and things like that, and do a couple of hours and get something that actually might have taken me in a completely different direction. Now I'm lucky because I ended up where I did, but I might not have done. And when I look back, see if I could, it would have been good for me to have done something, because I didn't do it in those 4 years, 4 years at school when I was playing the class joker, to be fair. So I would recommend anybody, if they're thinking, I'm stuck in this pub job, or I'm this, and I wish get online, look at courses, get yourself some qualification in something you want to move into. Because you might not end up where you really, absolutely want to go, but that will open doors to go and do something else to further your life and career, I suppose.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm just wondering whether the 16-year-old Alex would listen, and whether the 16-year-old Roger would take any of this advice on board. Probably not, right? I'm wondering whether life is the only teacher, or whether we can possibly have more influence, more positive influence on the people that want to start a different path. I like to believe we can. I know my life's been influenced by good mentors and good people. I think it's put yourself around those. Or Michael Heppel, good example. You got in his company, and look, boom, you published author. It's amazing what you can do when you throw yourself in. But you've got to jump, haven't you? You've got to go. You've got to move. You've got to do something, change something. You've got to start.
Yeah, you have, and to be fair, the confidence that he gives you. I mean, if anybody said to me a year ago you'd be doing this with Alex, live, I would say I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. No way will I talk about myself at all. I'm a very private person, always have been. So it's incredible, the sort of inspiration that he gives you to get yourself out there. You're good enough, and talk about yourself, talk about your book, talk about everything. Be you, be confident. It's been quite a change, I have to say. From a private person, anybody who's worked with me will go, "What's he talking about? He's the loudest guy in the office." Or my customers and things like that from years would go, "He's a life and soul." It's nearly like playing an actor. And then you come home and you're yourself, and you just don't. I'm just me, and I've got my daughter, I've got Victoria, I've got the dog, and that's your bubble, and I've always kept that really close. So this is quite new to me, but I have to say I'm thoroughly enjoying it and opening up and talking.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I don't think twice about it now coming on here and speaking, but I understand what you mean. It's strange because in conversations, like private conversations, I'm quite private. But for some strange reason, I can come out on this and just talk about anything. I think that's where writing helps as well, Roger. When you can take the pen and paper and just spit out some thoughts and let some creative juices flow. And sometimes normal life doesn't allow for conversations like that to engage. So, not everyone wants to talk about the things that you want to talk about. So small talk for me is really hard to do. So I can't talk about the Kardashians on TV or any of that shit. I just can't get into small talk. I can't even talk about public affairs really, because I don't read the papers. I don't watch the news. I don't know too much. So to engage in conversation for me is not always easy. So this is why I love speaking to people like you, because it's a journey. You've learned a lot, and I love learning from people. If there's one thing I do, it's I love learning from people. And I really wish that more younger guys especially would look up a little bit to see who's got the experience out there, and just pick brains. People want to help people, don't they? All you've got to do is ask.
Yeah, you're right. But is there enough people out there doing that for the younger generation in a sort of normal world type of way? And I'm not quite sure what I mean by that, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but if you know what I mean. And I'm not talking about 16-year-olds. You could have gone through school and now you're in that job that you never wanted to be, and you can't see where this is going to be my life, and nobody to say, well, actually, no, if you do this or try that or try this, it's not a guarantee, but if you try it, you might get there. And I don't know, from just a normal world type of thing, not mollycoddling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I think we're all leaders and mentors, whether we're positive ones is a different. Like we're all influencing people in some way, especially if you've got children or you go to work. So I don't know. I mean, I'm writing at the minute about life in your 30s and 40s. So I'm 38, 37 now. So, well, people say that, but I think you just start to wake up. I just think you just start to wake up. So I don't think I really grew up. So when I'm talking about young guys, I think you can be a 32-year-old and still not know what the fuck you want to do, not really take enough responsibility on your shoulders. Because I avoided all that stuff until I was 32, 33. I've only just started to really wake up and reflect on life a little bit and think about it slightly differently. And I don't know whether it is an age thing. Again, you can help me out on this, but you seem to be at that age where you've lived long enough to fuck up a lot. You've done some bad things, you've hurt people, but you're wiser, like you're smarter, you're more in tune. You start to understand what's important. So you want to head down a different path, but you've got this traumas of the past, you've got guilt, you've got beliefs, you've got things you're set in your ways. So it's a funny age to be, because I think you can go left or right at this age. You've still got time to sort shit out. Hopefully, if God's good to you and he doesn't take you too early, you've still got time to do things. But yeah, I don't know what you think about those middle years.
I should ask you what your trigger was. What do you think your trigger? What was your trigger to start thinking now, Alex?
Well, I had a proper meltdown. I didn't realize how bad it was, Roger, until I look back now. But when I was 28, I had a proper meltdown. I couldn't leave the house for 3 weeks. Like, I just shut the business down and just hid away in the house, because I was doing some things I wasn't proud of. It all caught up with me, and a whole host of things happened, just circumstances at that time. And I was always worried and stressed since I was a little kid. I had terrible anxiety. Doctors wanted to put me on beta blockers. I couldn't get on a plane. I couldn't drive the car. I couldn't get on a train even. Like, I was just terrified of everything, extreme anxiety. So very fragile. So I had to learn how to toughen myself up. But I chased all the wrong things, business, women, money, all that stuff. And I got some of it. I tasted it, and it was good at the time. I wasn't really becoming a better man for it. I wasn't learning too much. Or maybe I was. Maybe I just took the painful route. Because I think, unfortunately in life, we learn from the mistakes more than we do the victories, but it's a painful way to learn, but I think that's how we pick things up. So that was the trigger point. I was like, I can't go back there, because if I go back there, I'm going to kill myself. Simple. So it was not even going to kill myself, Roger. It was more like, I can't live like that. Like, I don't want to live like that. It's a horrible life, this depression, this anxiety that's with me all the time. So I had to try and change that. And luckily, I found a guy called Paul Mort who played a big role. I don't know if you're familiar with Paul.
That's another name,
Yeah, he really changed the game for me. Taught me how to set my day up better. Taught me how to set my morning up, my routine. Gave me a little bit, again, purpose, something to focus on. And it wasn't all smooth. The first few years with him was rough. Really rough. I couldn't achieve anything. I'd set goals and not stick to my word, and I'd just fail at everything. I just felt like the biggest loser in the world, man. It was a rough period. Didn't have any successful relationships with any women, and I just couldn't hold a relationship down, and just not behaving in a way that I was proud of. So I had to go and change from chasing goals to just becoming a better person. I've done better. Still not the finished article, that's for sure. It's been a journey, mate. It's been a journey.
I mean, we all go on in our different ways, don't you? Some deeper and more challenges than others, like you have, compared to me. And I think, I don't know what I was thinking about. What makes you, what's made me a better man and a better sort of. I'm a father now, I'm a husband. I mean, I had a toxic. I write about it a bit in the book, and it is based on truth and I had a toxic relationship when I was in my late 20s. When I was a bit abused, to be fair, and it's one of those things that as a man, you can't talk about that sort of thing. You can't, because A, some wouldn't believe you, and B, it just doesn't make sense, does it? I think there's more awareness now, and I think it's made me. When I was looking back and I was writing it made me a calmer person now. When I got to when my daughter Holly was born and onwards, a lot more calmer. I don't like confrontation. I don't like arguing. I like to talk things through, even whether that's with my stepson Robert when he was 8 or 9, Holly at that age, with Vic, we talk things through. I think. I'm not sure without that what kind of person I was. I think that stopped me being confrontational. I don't want that. I step back. I don't want arguments, because I've seen it and felt it or been on the end of it. And I think that's probably did change me a lot, I think.
Yeah. I think conflict avoided. They always say is what conflict multiplied or whatever. In the end, it's gonna catch you up at some point. But I understand that. But yeah. Looking back's a strange thing. Like you say, there's times where you might even highlight. I certainly do in my own world where I've not only been abused at certain times in relationship when I look back, but I've been abusive as well. You know, it's hard to look at the ugly side of your behavior sometimes. No man wants to do it. No person wants to do it. But you're like, shit, I was a bully. I was nasty, I was cruel or spiteful, you know, all these things that you would not like in someone else. It's like come straight back at you. It's like, shit, I was can't see, can you? Can't see out of your own miserable world sometimes. And that's where I ended up. And it was quite dark, and it had been dark for me since I was very young. So I'd only experienced the dark world. Now I've just started to experience like real fun and it's strange at 38 or 37, however old I am, to only just start to experience that actually life can be okay. You know, it can be fun.
Yeah. And but do you think it's a cliche, isn't it? Do you think you should have regrets? Because I fight internally about that. Do I regret anything I've done? Should you regret anything you've done? It's really hard because you think, well, it wouldn't have got me where I am today. It would not got me as in materialistic, just where I am. So can you regret that way? I don't know. It's really difficult.
Well, the tough part about that question is you don't know whether you'd be further ahead if you'd have made better choices. So I know exactly what you're saying. You know, I'm in this good place because of all the bad places, but did I have to take this horrible punishing route? Fuck knows. I've got no idea. We'll never know. And that's part of the trauma that flows up in a lot of men as well. It's like, what if I hadn't have done this, if I had have done this? And I'm at the stage now, Roger, as well, where I've got some big decisions to make in my life. And I keep falling into the trap of wanting to know what's going to happen if I make this decision. So like, will it work out if I do this? And I'm trying to think in my head of the best path. I can sit there all day. I'm not going to get an outcome. I'd have to pick something, go in that route, go all in, and then see how it pans out. But that's life, isn't it, mate? It's like,
yeah, easy, yeah, because you can't see that, can you? I know you just can't, and you just make the best decision with all as much, I suppose, facts in front of you of the. I mean, I'd have to say I used to look at worst case scenarios as well. So if I go down that route or that job or that whatever, what's the worst and can I cope with that? If I'm then, you know, if I have to move on, I can move on. But can I cope with that? I used to look at that rather than the best things. To be fair, and say if it goes like that.
No, I'm with you on that. I love that. I've always taken that approach as well. Like if you can handle the worst, like boom, roll the dice, go. Because like you say, if you can handle that, everything's upside, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no, I don't think that's. I think there's some positivity in looking at the negatives. Positive thinking is great, but I wouldn't rely on that just to go, yeah, everything's going to be great. I'm going to get what I want. My goals are going to come true. No. Let's look at both sides of the coin. Can you handle the shit side? If you can, boom, you've got it all to play for.
Well, I was just thinking, I was probably nothing to do with this, but when you were talking about looking for a purpose, and when I was taking the back seat in the company, I thought, what else can I do? And there's a local shop for sale, and it's a vegetable shop. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I could do that sort of thing. It's only down the road. I thought this could be right up my street, running a little shop near the house, and fruit and veg and all that. And then and it's the worst case scenario. So when they're telling you that they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they drive down to pick the oranges and the fruit for the day, etc. And as soon as that was the 4 o'clock in the morning, the worst case scenario was too bad. I was never going to get up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's smart. This is what I mean about, like, when you have your purpose and you have this goal, you should always look at the grit and the grind and the work you've got to do. You should always, because writing a book sounds glamorous. Like, I made this mistake. Yeah, I'd love to write a book. But hold on, Alex, you don't know the finer details. You don't know all the shit, the resistance, the research, the headaches, the mental blocks, the writing blocks. Like, it's good to know that stuff. It's good. I'm fortunate. One of my friends is published by Penguin, Kit the Wow. She's great. And she was straight up with me. She's like, Alex, this is really fucking hard. It's going to be miserable. You're not going to enjoy it. And she was so right. But I like that information. So it's almost like a visualization. But, people always go straight to positive visualization, which is handy. But I also like to visualize the difficult times because, as you've rightly pointed out, if you can handle that and you are prepared for it a little bit more, which is important, then when it hits you, you're not so surprised. You're not taken aback. You don't quit as easy because you expected the challenge to arise and present itself.
Yeah, I think going back to the writing thing, you can think it's good as you're doing it, and when you finish it, and to be fair to your family or friends who've read a chapter, they're sort of very kind as well, aren't they? But you don't really know until it gets published and people are buying it and then feeding back that they've enjoyed it, or it's made them laugh, or it's made them cry, or they and that, until I got that, I was literally petrified of what was going to come back when somebody had read it. Now, I knew that a lot of people that bought it were my friends to start with and colleagues, and they would be kind, but they were over kind, if that makes sense. They were being honest, and it was just lovely. But before that, I have to say, Alex, are you allowed to say shit on this?
Well, I've said the F-bomb about 10 times.
Oh, you have, yeah.
I think shit passes fine, mate. Yeah, we'll draw a line at the C word for now, but we'll stay there. Yeah,
just literally shitting myself that it was not good enough, just not good enough. And you spent months on it, and you re-edit it and edit it, and then you read it, you think it's all right. I'm sure it's all right. You have good days. You wake up with good days, and when you're finishing, you're just doing the final edits. You read it, and you go, "Oh, this is all right. This is all right." And then you go back to it the next day for another read just to make sure, and you think, "Oh God, this is just." And it's really, really odd mentally. It's a very strange journey, and I don't think until you get to that stage where a few people have gone, "It's all right," it's actually quite good. Then you think, "Oh, is that the relief?"
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things to do as a writer is not write with that in mind. So Kit Dwyer kept saying to me, "Don't think about the response," because it's hard to get out of. People are going to read this, so it needs to present itself in a certain way. So that's a hard hurdle to get past.
Yeah, no, it is, and I defy anybody not to think that, because you can't help it, because you have that self-doubt. You will have, because at that point when you're writing it, you're writing it. Nobody else has really seen it. So, and I don't think it's a problem to have self-doubt, because I actually also think it makes you better. It makes you tighter. It makes you relook at it. It makes you, if it's, I'm not quite happy with that bit, so you do it again until you're comfortable enough to say, I can't do this any better. And I think that's probably the best advice I could give from getting over the bit of the self-doubts in your head.
Yeah, I think the danger is that you can always think you could do it better. I think there's surely a line, what's good enough. But I love what you said about self-doubt.
No, yeah, what I meant was, where you get it to a point where, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, it's okay to go out.
That section where you think, I could rewrite that and it could be better, so you do. I'm not talking about sort of lines and everything, but it gets to that stage where I can't really do any better than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll never be perfect. I mean, I could rewrite a few bits now. When I look at it, think, I could have, but not really. No, I'm happy with that. Actually, I'm really happy how I finished it. So yeah, you can't get to that point.
I'd advise you not to read it again, because you will notice things that you could change and chop. Yeah, so if I ever released a book, I don't think I'll ever read it. But I like what you've said about the self-doubt thing. Again, this came up this morning. I think it's a really important point, actually, and we'll stay on this for a minute. So I mean, this was your first book, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of self-belief, we all want self-belief, and there's always this kind of like saying that you've got to believe in yourself, and I don't always think that's true. There was a tennis player who'd won some big tournament lately, and she said, I didn't believe that I could do it. I mean, she went and did it, and I think it's the same thing whenever you do something new. So writing a book, you don't really know. You'll only get the belief from doing it. So now you can have the belief because you've proved something to yourself. This is where my whole business, Roger, is built on this. Like, you've got to do what you said you would do. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, you have to publish a book. But what it means, if you say you're going to write for 30 minutes every day, do yourself a favor and write for 30 minutes every day. Because if you're trying to install self-belief in you and you're doing exactly the opposite of what you say, then goodbye self-belief. It's not gonna stick. Same as confidence. Like, confidence comes off the back of some small victories, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But all these things, again, they require that everything comes back to this for me, that perseverance, that resilience, and you having the courage to go, right, here's my book. Your worst, like, I'm open to criticism here. But I'm putting it out there, and it's the essence for me of everything, like this, having this stubborn mentality. But it can be, the good news is that you can train your mental toughness, like, and I don't mean it as an aggressive thing, I just mean being more durable to life, because life can be pretty tough, man. Like, and if you want to pursue something, it's going to have its hurdles, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I do think that it isn't any advice for anybody, but I did think when I was writing it, I was a bit similar to my work life, where you're sort of playing a bit of a part. So when you're writing it, you're playing a part. It's only when I've written it and I've now, and I'm trying to sell it, market it, and all that sort of thing, that I've started to become me after the book's written. It's a really strange feeling, but even as writing it, you're writing it from a step back, if you like. And now I've got this, like I said, the confidence to talk to someone like you, Alex. I can walk into a bookshop with it, and they'll say, "I'm not stocking that." That's fine. That's fine. You walk out knowing that you've sold over 500 copies already, and it's your loss. It's a bit like the Pretty Woman scene where she has the bags. I don't know if you when she said
a long time ago, but yeah,
big mistake. She said when they didn't serve her in the shop, and I have that in my mind all the time. That if it sells a bit better, and I can walk back into that bookshop one day and go, big mistake, you missed out. It's all over Waterstones. It won't happen, but I just have that.
Well, who knows on this second book? So where do you go with the second book now? So obviously, because fictional memoir, I'm guessing it won't be memoir again.
Yeah, it's odd. I thought about trying something completely different, but I got some nice feedback, because in the book there's my beloved dog, who's based on my beloved dogs, if you like, because I've had flat coat retrievers through my life since early 90s, so nearly 25, over 25 years, and one of them's in the book quite a bit, in the birth section and the death section. Of course, she passes away. It's very sad, and I got a bit of feedback of how lovely it was my writing about that bit. So I am at the moment attempting or trying to write about the three dogs in my life, and how they took me on my journey with me, and they have, in a way, from when I was, early, even from when I was a child, when we had our first dog as a family, and how that dog sort of helped and supported in different ways. So I'm thinking it's going to be similar, if you like, but with different stories and true stories. A lot of true stories that weren't in the first one that I missed out, which will have to do with the dogs in my life. So A Life Retrieved, hopefully, is my title. How's that?
I like that, man. That's smart. That's really smart. Mate, go for it. I love dogs, man.
Yeah.
In fact, obviously, it did come up in what I was saying. Obviously, when I was telling you about those times that I was at my worst, Roger, and I was struggling to get out of the house, I had a dog at the time, and I had to get up for him. He had to walk.
Yeah.
He had to be fed. So it was a little similar. Like, I love Afterlife, by Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it, right? When he's just like, he says that I'm staying alive so I can feed my dog. And it always kind of brings a tear, because my dog was called Benson. He was a beautiful French Mastiff. Unfortunately, he died in during lockdown. He was only 6, but he was a great friend, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll probably well up talking about him now. But what a boy he was. He didn't give a fuck what I'd done wrong. Do you know what I mean?
No, I mean, a lot of the time I've spent with my wife and family and stuff like that. But yeah, the first one I got after being a family dog was I had him on my own for 3 years, and when I lived on my own, and in bad times, and when I couldn't afford the mortgage and I was going to have to sell the house and stuff. And he was a constant, from a little pup, just being there, just being on the sofa with you. It was, you can't. It's really hard to describe it, isn't it? But just there for you, literally there for you.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I got a bit of a hammering on a social media platform the other day for saying man's best friend. Apparently now I'm supposed to say person's best friend.
That's interesting, because the first few lines of my new book actually says that man's best friend. But of course, I don't think we can say that anymore now.
Of course you can. Fuck
that. No, but you know what I mean. It just what I'm saying.
Crazy, Roger. I'm telling you, the world's gone crazy when you can't say man's. It's absolute bullshit, and I refuse to play along with that game. I'm serious, mate. I'm called the better man, and what am I going to do now?
No, and to me, there's bigger fish to fry. I mean, it's a harmless saying that's been there for years, and I understand it, but it's just there. It doesn't mean anything. For me, it doesn't mean man. It's just a saying. Man's best friend is a saying.
Roger, if you've got time to troll the internet and get offended by that, you've got to find. We're talking about purpose. You've got to find something fucking better to do, because that's ridiculous. But it's quite sad when you think about it, that's what somebody would do with their time. And I mean, and I'm not being nasty here. I mean, it's genuinely quite sad, isn't it, that you would spend your time looking for things to be offended by when there's so much better things to do in the world. This is how people get angry and resentful. It's like you can find whatever you want to be offended at. Like that.
Of course you can, yeah. I think there's bigger. I think we as a country, etc., have a big fish to fry. To be fair, than worrying too much about that.
It's like there's real horrible things happening. Why don't we try and sort those problems out rather than this whole, everything's got to be this PC language? Like, yeah, of course, treat everyone with respect, but like you say, there's big things to sort in the world that actually would make a difference, and it's just quite sad. I think it's certainly not helping with the whole mental health thing, because now people are just terrified to say anything. So it's like, well, isn't mental health all about opening up and expressing and saying and talking? But I think people are now becoming scared to say anything. So people just shut the hell up. It's easier.
Yeah, I mean, social medias can be a. Did you go on Twitter, Alex? I don't know if you do. I don't think you do you? I mean, I'm on it, but I wouldn't post anything.
No, I couldn't handle it.
But would even give anybody half a chance to do a pile on. To be fair,
Facebook and Instagram, as far as I'll go. So LinkedIn, I had to come off. It was just too much. It's so goddamn serious as well. And Instagram's okay, but I have someone do the social media for me now, mate. So
right.
I find it again. I've got to be very careful with what I absorb and what I ingest. So yeah, I don't, whether it's a weakness of mine, I'm not sure, but I try not to. I don't have any news feed. I don't have it on my phone. I don't have a news feed, so I don't see what others are up to. If I really care about someone, I'll give them a call and I'll text them. Because I think it can kill conversation. So if if me and you are friends, but I don't need to speak to you to see what you're up to, I can just go on your social media. I don't need to call you. I don't need to.
That's true.
I need to have a coffee with you because I don't need to say, Roger, what have you been up to, man? How's your book going? Because I can find out on social media because that's what people see. But I'd rather have an hour with you like this.
Yeah.
Fantastic, by the way, and just speak to you and get to know you and learn from you and be interested in you. And I think that's far more healthy way of communicating.
It's strange, on the flip side of that, and the good side, and the pandemic brought that out, because you couldn't go and see anybody. So in lockdown, etc. And we as a family, my brothers and sisters and myself and their wives and husbands, we every fortnight we started to FaceTime. So we only saw each other before pre-pandemic 2-3 times a year, just because of work, busy lives, etc., etc. And then suddenly we are having 2-hour video calls every fortnight through the pandemic, and they were great, funny. And there was nothing to talk about, was there, Alex, really? But we were just taking the mickey out of each other like we've always done as brothers, sisters, etc. And it was fantastic. It was really, really good. And then when we came out of lockdown, we just stopped doing it. So I haven't seen them for. And isn't that odd?
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it makes sense. But I get you. Yeah. Everyone, I think everyone jumped on that train. To be honest, Roger, like everyone went Zoom, FaceTime crazy.
Yeah, but why didn't we do it before? And why haven't we carried it on? Does that make sense? I'm just generally that sort of, because it was that time. Then we must talk to each other all the time. Have a really, really good time every 2 Fridays. But now we're out of lockdown and we're back to normal, going around doing our lives. Let's not bother. It's just.
Yeah. Well, I think there was great hopes that lockdown would change us, and we'd all be better human beings for it. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I think pain and uncertainty is a driver. So if I'm all of a sudden my world is crumbling around me and the government say you can't go out, yeah, then of course you start to think, well, shit, what's important? It's company, it's people. But we do that as humans. It's no different in the health and fitness business that I'm in, Roger. Like usually people have to get into a place of really poor health before they address it. So they're forced to address it rather than choose to. They might have a health scare, or they might get cancer, or they might see a photo of themselves and they think, oh shit, like I need to do something. Because I think that's just humans. I think we learn the hard way. We always have, we always will, unfortunately. But I just think it's what happens.
Yeah. And I do think there was a real big coming together, wasn't there?
Yeah.
For a while, which was lovely to see. I mean, even our neighbourhood, every neighbourhoods were looking after people. It was just wonderful. It was beautiful, really.
But it stopped. It stopped. And again, I'm frustrated even because until you brought it up, I haven't really thought about it. And you're right.
Sorry.
No, it's a great point. Again, I'm glad you're there to bring out the positive stuff in there. I'm straight on the cynical social media train, and you're saying, well, there's good things as well, and it connects us, and it does. That's originally what it was here for. It's just become a little bit toxic in certain places, but of course, there's still great stuff out there, and you're right. But yeah, why don't we continue doing the things that we know? I don't know whether it's just as simple as we get distracted and things steal our attention. I don't know.
Yeah, because at the time you think, oh, this is, no, we're going to carry on this. Everybody must have said that. We'll carry on, and we'll keep looking, make sure the neighbour's all right, and then slowly but surely it just goes back to normal. We're just a strange race, aren't we?
Well, we're completely fucking crazy people. Yeah, we're you're never going to work human beings out. We're insane. But I'm going to jump back to when you were 13, if that's all right. Again, I know we've kind of jumped all over the place, but it's flowed really nice. I just want to know, kind of like, where did you get your male influence, male role models from at the age of 13? If obviously your dad had kind of left home, and it sounded like you were surrounded by predominantly females. Like, did you have any strong male influence?
Probably my 2 brothers, to be fair.
Okay.
They're both older than me, and 2-year gap. So if I was 13, Paul would be 15, and Philip would be 17. So they were the sort of male influence. Probably Philip more the elder one, because he, bless him, he was out working, and times weren't as good as they used to be when Dad wasn't about from an income point of view. So I do remember him having to buy me school shoes and things like that. And he was all right doing that. We were a tight family, really tight, and sister was 3 years younger, so we love her to bits. But we were quite strong as the 3 of us because we played football together. We did that together, and so I had them very much so. So I had quite a strong male influence with those 2, I think, and they were both pretty all right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, could handle themselves, kind of thing.
But weren't naughty or bad boys.
Yeah. The reason I ask is I'm just reading a great book called The Boy Crisis at the minute, and it's
all right.
Yeah, it's just talking about kids who haven't really got male influence, and then the importance of finding one. So it was obviously quite important that you had your brothers in your life. I think some young boys aren't as fortunate. If dad's not around, then they don't have. They might not have a sister even, or whatever. But I think it's important, and I think even later on in life, like you say, just you meeting Michael Heppel, me meeting Paul Moore, the people that you meet along the journey do direct you onto slightly different paths. And I always find that fascinating, that you can meet an individual and they can change your life. So you might not have been a published author, right, if you hadn't have been introduced to Michael Heppel. It's as simple as that.
No.
Yeah, which is got. By the way, he might be watching this because he's jumped on this and took the piss out of me a few times. I joined the program and didn't write the book.
I think we're in competition tonight. I think he's live tonight on one of his write that books.
Heppel will crush me with fan following. That guy will crush me. I want to know what that guy eats for breakfast because he's wired. The guy's wired all the time. He's got so much energy.
I know. Yeah, great bloke. I have a lot of time for him, and he's given me a lot of his time as well.
Yeah. I'll tell you how else is a great bloke. You're very easy to speak to, man. You're a great guest. You're very relaxed about what you do. You seem very humble and chilled, especially for an Amazon bestseller, mate. I'd be I'd be Amazon bestseller right there.
Yeah. I'm time to redo one, which has it across it. But no, I am me, I suppose, and that. And I've always been like that. I have to say, I've never been materialistic. So I've never wanted the Ferrari. I've never wanted I wanted to make sure I've been all right, if you know what I mean. So I can go to the theatre or have enough money to do that. So I'm not materialistic, and I just try to be nice as well to everybody, respect everybody, youngers, elders, managing directors, cleaners. Doesn't matter. We're all the same.
Absolutely.
I always said I never signed an autograph. I never asked anybody for an autograph. And my daughter always, can't understand that why. And I just say, yeah, they're brilliant at what they do, but they're just the same as me. They know, it doesn't matter if he's an Olympic rower with 5 gold medals or whatever, Steve Redgrave. I'm not going to ask him. He's the same as me.
I know, with you. I know. I find it strange, when people queue outside and wait for hours. I mean, I think the selfie's probably overtaken the autograph. You're showing your age there, Roger. I think it's all about selfies now.
But I wouldn't do that either, Alex. No.
I'd still grab a selfie with someone who.
But I can't do it.
No, I'd be a bit embarrassed asking, to be honest. I'd rather just have a conversation with someone than get a selfie. But
I like doing that if I ever meet someone.
Have you never been as materialistic items? Even being in the auto trade, have you never thought, right, I'm going to drive around in this sexy car with the roof down and let my long hair flow in the wind and all that?
Well, 2 reasons for that. One, I spent 20 years working with Ford Motor Company, so I'm not sure. Don't have many sexy cars. So.
I love those Ford Rangers, mate.
Well, yeah, in the old days. Yeah.
I love the Raptors and some of these Ford Rangers now are absolute beasts.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So, it's just never been a driver for you.
No, I mean, I've never liked cars, so I don't care. Which is hard, really, when you've been in it 25 years, as I have in the car industry. But yeah, if I'm materialistic, no, I haven't. I've never wanted the house in America or the second thing. I just always wanted to make sure I had enough money just to. I'll tell you what I haven't done, and you'll be thinking about this, Alex, is it took me till I was late 30s to realise I had no pension whatsoever. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I know. Again, there's another great debate in life. How much time do you spend planning for the future versus, I mean, there'd be nothing worse than being old and having zero money in your pocket, right? Like, you don't want that situation to occur, but you also don't want to, I know some people that aren't living their life because they want to save all their pennies. So in fact, there's a guy, Roger, that I know that saved his entire life to do this round the world cruise when he retired. A week before, you know what I'm going to say, right? A week before he retired, he had this horrible heart attack and he passed away, man. He didn't get to enjoy any of that stuff with his wife. And it's just like, shit, man. Like, there's no guarantees that you're going to get to that 65 and see your pension.
No, you're not. No, that's a horrible thought, but it is true. So, it's a real balancing because you think, I want to get over 60, especially when you get to 54 like I am. You don't really think about it.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus. Hang on a minute, I'm going to be 60 soon.
You don't think about it?
No, I am now, I'm back myself now. When I was in my late 40s, I wasn't thinking about it really, because that's all right, late 40s.
I think about it all the time.
I don't now.
A bit like you said about the worst case scenario, I take death as the worst case scenario but honestly, Roger, it's made life so much simpler. So, Jeff, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a guy called Jeff Thompson. He's always talks about the ability to give away possessions because he thinks, what you own owns you, i.e., big car lease means you've got to do the job that you probably don't like to pay for the car that you want to impress people. Yeah. It's focusing, like I read book there just with me now, these books like Denial of Death and Worm at the Core, they sound like really depressing, but they actually make life a little bit easier when you realize that, not like, because we always assume that we've got 25 years left or 50 years left, but we shouldn't assume that. Like, worst case scenario is I don't see out the end of the year. I know that's morbid as fuck, but it changes the way that you approach things. So if there's a decision to be made, what you would class as a big one, if you break it down like that, it's actually not that big of a decision.
No, it's still very hard to make, though, isn't it? If you know what I mean.
But it's easier if you realize that, like, in 20 years, it's not going to matter a jot. Like, so if we're talking about little things like cars and shit like that, like, that's not going to be the thing that you look back on and it determines whether you've had a good life or not.
No, totally agree with that. Totally agree. Yeah.
But we get wrapped up in the game sometimes of nice car, expensive lease, like a second mortgage. And again, it's tougher. Maybe you haven't experienced this because materialistic things don't drive you, but I'm getting rid of a lot of materialistic things now. It's quite painful. Like, you have to break up with these things, and you have to, because people are going to think, oh, he used to have a really flash car, now he's not. Things mustn't be going well. When the opposite's true, it gives you more freedom. You got more money to travel. But do you know what I mean? It's just like there's a lot of that as well, where you have to let go of what people think. Which
that's the bigger thing, isn't it?
Well, it's like you releasing your book, right? Like, you've got to be out there and go, people might like this, people might hate it. Here's the gamble that I'm willing to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
That's the big one. So what drives you then? If materialistic items don't do it for you, is it a sense of freedom? Is it a sense of creativity? Is it a sense of challenge, growth? Like, what's the thing now that's going to push you forward and make the most out of life?
Well, stay healthy, I think, hopefully. And I think, I've sort of struggled with that, but, weight-wise, I've struggled, and I've got a bit. So I've started a regime of losing weight and doing a few bits.
Let's talk about that.
There's nothing much. I just don't drink as much. Don't eat chocolate. Don't have snacks, and that's taken the stone off in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Mate, the snack the snack thing is genius. If you can stick to that rule, don't snack.
Yeah, I'm really good at when I say I'm going to do something, though, I'm going to do it. So, and I've literally haven't had any chocolate for 5 or 6 weeks now, which for me, for every night I was having it, and I can just. But once I made that decision, I can do that, and so yeah, healthy, but not. I mean, I can't do much. What's the word?
Exercise, is that the
word? Yeah, I can't do too much exercise.
I don't remember the word, Roger, let alone do it.
Well, there you go. They're never going to get anywhere. Because I had a slip disc in January, which or 2 of them, and so I still can't. I'll do a bit. I walk the dog, etc. But I can't do the sort of running and golf or a bit of tennis that I like, because it's just too sore, and I can still feel it. So the only way, really, for me anyway, is just trying to watch what I eat. So to try and healthy, because might last longer then, mightn't I? If you know what I mean. Rather than 65, I might get to 70 or 75.
Look,
why not?
You increase your odds of living a bit.
I've got a better chance, haven't I?
Yeah, and you've got a better chance of fighting off any of these horrible, viruses, diseases that are out there. If you're fit and healthy, you've got a fighting chance anyway. That's for sure. You're doing the right things, man. Just walking and, like I say, watching that nutrition. If you've lost a stone, you're clearly doing something right. So
it's going to be the next bit.
Yeah, man. So by the time your next book comes out, you'll have a 6-pack and a bunch of muscles sticking out.
Yeah, and then my third book will be how I lost 2 stone in 6 months, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, well, I promise you, I will never do something like that. Promise.
Oh. Well, Roger, it's been a pleasure speaking. I feel like you're the kind of guy that, just be great to go down the boozer with, have a pint and chat some shit. So,
thank you.
Unless there's anything that you particularly want to cover, I feel like we spoke about quite a lot of things, but unless there's anything specific that you think, Alex, I really want to say this while I'm on the podcast. I think you were great tonight, man.
No, I haven't. To be fair, I think we've talked about a lot of things. So, but thank you so much for having me. It's, much appreciated. It's been great spending time with you, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
Man. The problem you've got now is if I bring a guest on, like I've had a couple of return guests. If I really like them, I'll get on the phone to them and go, Roger, do you fancy coming on again in a few months' time? And if you're up for that, mate, I think we could carry on this conversation because, like I say, you've been a pleasure to speak to, and I think you've got a lot to offer. So,
thank you. That's lovely. Yeah, I'd be delighted to come back if you need me or want me. That'd be lovely. Love to have another chat. It'd be brilliant.
I'm going to order your book tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'll have a read, man. I'd like to. And what I love now about that is, like you said, some of it's true, some of it's not, and I like that game of like, is that bit true or is that bit true? Is that not? I like that, and I think, maybe don't tell me because that's part of the excitement. So
I won't tell you anything. I'll let you. I'll let you read it and wonder yourself which is and which isn't.
Yeah, I guarantee my mother, who watches all these podcasts, she'll order one now as well.
Oh, I hope so. Yes, please.
She will.
Please do, Mrs. Alex.
So we'll get you back. We'll get you back up by tonight. You'll
be even if it's for an hour. Yes, please.
Mate, I don't give a shit. If I ever do that, I'll be well happy. So well done, you. Roger, it was an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
No, thank you. Delightful. Yeah. Thanks, Alex.